Welcome to this video entitled Understanding Your Grief. And what I want to do in this video is give you an overview of some of the aspects of grief that I think are so important to consider and think about as you travel this very difficult journey. The first thing I want to talk about is this rule of thumb that I think can be helpful. The rule of thumb when it comes to grief is when you feel your grief, tend to it. And that feels sort of counterintuitive. When you feel your grief, shouldn't you want to move away from it and stay away from it because it is so difficult and so painful? But it's better in the long run that we actually move into and through our grief versus trying to run away from it and not embrace it. Grief is definitely not unlike a wilderness. You think about a wilderness, it's often desolate place. Often desert is equated with wilderness, where there's very little water, very little life. And grief can feel like that, where you wonder, how long will this wilderness go on? And so it's not unusual just to feel so desolate and so alone when you're going through grief as a result of your loss. But I want to encourage you that grief, even though doesn't seem to be a friend, it doesn't seem to be friendly, the more that you're able to be acquainted with it and sort of travel with it and move forward with your grief, the sooner you will actually start to feel little tiny indications of life. Well, let's go down a little bit deeper. Let's talk about this whole idea of opening up to the presence of pain. Now, oftentimes when we think of pain, it's not something we actually go looking for. It's not a positive word, but it's true in many cases that pain, it can be an indicator that work needs to be done. If you stub your toe hurts, and it says to you, get your foot up, give it some relief. And in a sort of similar way, when we feel pain, it says to us, stop, push pause, pay attention to that pain. Don't try to just numb the pain, but pay attention to what is the message it's trying to tell you. That doesn't mean the pain comes from a positive place. It can often come from a very negative source. But pain oftentimes is trying to communicate something to us. It's the key to actually being present to our grief and with our grief. And it tells us we need to stop, we need to pause, we need to embrace it and honor the grief and not try to push it off to the side. The other principle and idea that I just want to sow into your mind and into your heart is this idea of the possibility that there is healing in grief. That grief doesn't need to be the end of the story, that healing is actually possible. And what I'm talking about is not that we will be cured or we are cured from grief, but rather we learn to be able to integrate what's happened to us and the loss that we've experienced. We eventually can integrate that into our life and find our way forward with that being a part of our story, with that being a part of our life. We're never cured from our grief, from the pain that we've had, but we can find this integration or the eventual being able to not always make sense, but to find a way to move forward in spite of the fact that it's a part of our lives. Now let's talk about this idea of dosing your grief and really dosing the pain that you're experiencing. It's never a good idea to say to yourself, I just want to get this grief over with, give it to me all at once, and then I'll be done with it. It doesn't work that way. What we need to learn to do is to dose ourselves, give little doses, allow the small waves to wash over us, and then find ways to take breaks. Go for a walk, smell the flowers, do something that distracts us from the pain of that grief so that we don't have to actually take it all on at the same time, because that's not wise and it's not possible, because it is a long journey. This is not a sprint. The grief journey is a marathon. It's a long distance race, and we have to pace ourselves and allow the pain and this grief to come in doses as much as possible. And to set our intention to heal is something I want to encourage you to do. And you may not see any signs of that at this point in your life, but to be able to say to yourself this little seed idea, eventually I will find healing. I will find this wholeness. I will find a way to integrate what's happened to me into my life and learn to live again eventually. And you're not going to necessarily feel anything right away when you set this intention. But eventually, when you do the work, the hard work of grieving and of mourning, healing does come. And, there's that cliche, time heals all wounds. It is not true. It's not time alone. Now, we definitely need time to heal and time to grieve, but it's what we do with the time that we have that makes all the difference. Are we thinking about those new ideas? Are we surrounding ourselves and finding empathetic people that will listen to us and let us tell our story over and over and over again? Because it's not time alone, it's time with the right things that we're thinking about, the people, the support. And yes, it does take time. There's no getting around it. And we never want to get in a rush. There's no reward for speed when it comes to this grief journey. It's not quick. It's not easy. There's no timeline that anybody can give you or give me when we're grieving. It takes as long as it takes. And grief is something that we learn to integrate into life because we never get over the losses that we have. They stay with us. So it's a matter of going at the speed that we need to go at, giving yourselves time, being present with our grief, and eventually starting to feel a little bit lighter and experiencing that healing that comes in time. So I hope those words have encouraged you, given you some things to think about as you discuss this, and maybe look at some of the questions that go with this particular lesson, that you'll find some comfort, some encouragement, some direction, a bit of a pathway for the grief journey that you're on.